Hey everyone, this is 8-Bit Flashback, and I just got my NES Classic clone Raspberry Pi Zero build complete. And I even got a couple of mini NES cartridges that actually work. This is the Nintendo Super Collection, which includes every 8-bit and 16-bit Nintendo game. And this is every 8-bit and 16-bit game made by Sega, called the Sega Classics, all on one cartridge. So there's a couple ways to make the mini NES cartridges work. There's a real popular way out there using the NFC. I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to install an actual circuit board inside the game, so it's more like the original Nintendo. The original Nintendo had that 72-pin connector inside of it, and then the cartridge itself had a circuit board inside there that plugged into that 72-pin connector. So what I've done is I've took the guts of a flash drive and put it inside this mini NES cartridge. Then I have a USB input that's inside the NES Classic that this cartridge plugs into. So I have a Raspberry Pi Zero board installed inside here with Retropie, and I have a program to run the games via USB, but the operating system still runs on the SD card. So this obviously isn't the 72-pin connector, but the concept is similar. So I've done quite a few mods of this console. To start with, I replaced the stickers here in the front, and right here I added two USB inputs that had different controller inputs like the Atari 2600, and then I added some stickers here for the power and reset buttons. Let's take a look at the back here. On the back I have an HDMI output, I have a power input, I have a third USB input, and a memory input. And this links to the same input that the mini NES cartridge will be plugged into. Also, I modified the power button and the LED light that came with the clone to work with the Raspberry Pi board. For a controller, I'm using a wireless PS3 controller, and I'm going to go ahead and move the dongle to the back just so it's out of sight for now. And if you're curious about the mini Sega Genesis right next to my Nintendo, be sure to check out some of my other videos. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the power of this to show you the power button works. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the switch here, and it'll start the shutdown sequence. And then once it's fully shut down, the red light should power off, indicating it's off. There we go, it's shut down. So we'll go ahead and power it back up here, and I'll show you some of the software I have installed on here. So this is a custom Retropie image I made with a custom splash screen also. And eventually I'm going to upload this image to Arcade Punks, so if you want to try this image out, you can. So here's a look at the main menu. This is what pops up when I load the software. This is all my emulators. I got the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, the Family Computer or the Famicom, the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, the Retropie menu. So this is an attract mode image with a modified RoboSpin theme. So here's a look at the Nintendo emulator, and normally you're going to have your titles on the right side here, and then your previews on the left side. But because I don't have my cartridge loaded, there's no game showing right now. So now I'm going to load my Nintendo Super Collection cartridge into the slot, and all my games should pop up. So depending on how many games you have on the cartridge, it may take a few seconds to load up. And you also have to reload your emulator. So what I normally do is just scroll to the right to the next emulator, and then scroll right back, and then all my games will load. And you can also just power the system off and power it right back up, but that takes way longer. So this is my Super Nintendo emulator, and all the games have already popped up for it. So now I'm going to scroll back to my Nintendo emulator, and all the games should be there. So there we go, we got all the Nintendo games loaded, we got video previews, we got titles, we got artwork, and all that's stored on the mini NES cartridge. So if we remove the cartridge, whatever's on the screen is going to stay there, but no games are going to load, because the games are actually on the cartridge. So let's go ahead and scroll over to the Super Nintendo emulator, and now you can see none of my games are there, none of the previews are there, and now I'm back in the Nintendo emulator, same thing, nothing's there. So I'm going to go ahead and load the cartridge and show you that all the games and previews are all on that cartridge. So again, we went to the Super Nintendo, and I'm going to go back, and there we go. All my games are loaded, all the artwork is all back. So I have every original Nintendo game on here, along with the video previews and that box art, and it looks really nice. And same thing for the Super Nintendo, I got every game, along with that video preview and the box art. And for the Game Boy, we have every Game Boy game, along with a snapshot of the game and some box art. Same thing for the Game Boy Color, and also the same thing for the Game Boy Advance. And for the Famicom, I don't have every single game, but I got quite a few good ones on here. Okay, it's time to go ahead and test out a game. Let's play some Bad Dudes. I got a lot of Nintendo thumb back in the day from playing this game. over and over and over. Alright, we gotta pick blade. Okay, this is taking way too long. Let's go ahead and fast forward that. Come on, here we go. Here we go, the graphics are just as bad as I remember. Come on, ninjas. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Alright, on board. Let's check out some other games. So we got all the Marios, of course. We got the Mario Brothers 1. We even got Duck Hunt on here. Although I don't even know how to play that. I'm sure if I do some research, I can figure out how to play a light gun game. I'm just not very interested at this point. Got Mario Brothers 2, it's okay. Mario Brothers 3, probably the greatest Mario game. And Super Pitfall, that game sucks. So these pictures are just a quick preview that show off some of the things I did to build the console. So I worked on this console off and on for about a week, but now that I know how to build it, I could probably do that in about a quarter of the time. And I chose to use the Raspberry Pi Zero board to save on room. I had a bunch of modifications I did inside this console, and I almost didn't have enough room as it was. Especially when it came time to making the NES cartridge load inside the machine. I barely had enough room as it was. Well, thanks for watching. This is 8-Bit Flashback. If you want to hear more from me, please like and subscribe. And if you want to check out more of my videos, just click any of these links.